have a question, and it has to do with your name. You're called the Black Art Jazz Collective, and I'm wondering, what does Black art mean to you? What do you think Black art is? What isn't Black art? And what makes your music Black in particular?
The title of the band is provocative, and it's meant to be so. and when Wayne and I and Jonathan Blake met, it's kind of it should be looked at as both a reclamation and a proclamation.
I've been dealing with thinking about this, and one of these buzz terms for the last few years is like safe spaces. And so in a space like this, like Black folks need safe spaces. A lot of the world doesn't really know, most of y'all get to know Black folks in your spaces. And so you don't necessarily experience like Black folks, like you don't necessarily experience Black culture in the way that like Black folks are in Black safe spaces. So when you have a band like this, you essentially create like what's a Black cultural safe space where, the music is, it's not necessarily like black in terms of like you can put your finger on it's this or that, but it's like, it's a bunch of brothers like doing what they do and feeling, not necessarily feeling like there's a cap or some sort of, that there's any expectation for the, like there's not necessarily like an expectation for, the subject matter of the music. We got tunes called Involuntary Servitude and talking about Tulsa and things like that, which might not happen outside of like this space. You could just look through historically, for instance, jazz journalism was clear that like John Coltrane played Black, whether they said it or not. They'd explain, you'd read these reviews that sort of called his playing jungle, sort of angry and sort of from like feeling like jungleistic or primal, all these kind, like the words that they use to describe music when Black people play them. This isn't what John Coltrane says. There's a great interview where John Coltrane says, "I'm not angry. I'm loving the moment." But the European journalist asked if it was angry. So again, I think part of this deal is like it's a proclamation to say, well, yeah, we play Black. We play Black the way that journalists have described what Black playing is. But it's not primal. It's not angry. It's just like it's a space where Black people do what they do.
I think one of the things, and this kind of goes to the question that was asked about the different experiences that we bring to it. One of the things that it should present to anyone that's listening is that it's not a monolithic experience to be Black. And so therefore you have a lot of different perceptions and experiences, using your word, that bring to this music.
I think sometimes people take for granted that Black is just Black. We all have completely different experiences. My family's Jamaican. I was born in the UK. I happen to be, but I was raised here in the United States. And in addition to being raised in the United States, I was raised in Connecticut. And I lived on Yale. I lived in Yale housing, but 2 blocks away from, Newhallville, which is one of the largest, you guys know Newhallville. It's like there's a lot of gang activity there. Let's just put it that way. Okay. So, but I went to a lot of private schools. Okay. So now my experience as a Jamaican immigrant with Jamaican family with British family, being Black in a private school environment in Connecticut is going to be different than maybe a cat who was born in New York and lived in the Bronx. And what's funny is like, you assume that we've all had very similar experiences, but our experiences could be entirely different. And one of the great things that I love about about this music, jazz, is that it allows us, I really appreciate how Rashawn put it, allows us to have a safe space to come together as Black people of different varieties to kind of share our experience in music. And one of the interesting things I was thinking about recently is like I said, you might have someone who's African American who was born and raised in New York City, maybe in the Bronx or in Harlem, and you might have me who I'm British, I'm light skinned, but the question you could ask the question, well, which one of these two individuals do you think has experienced most racism? The person who was born and raised in the Bronx and spent most of their time in the Black community, or somebody who maybe in certain circles could be thought of as less than Black, or in certain circles could be called more not white, and be in an environment where it's mostly white people and you're the only minority. Now, which one of those groups do you think has experienced more racism? Which one of those has been called names that they don't even want to mention more often than others? So it's a whole interesting thing. So just because you see a group of Black people on stage, you can't assume that the darker skinned one with dreads who is talking the loudest is the one who has had more of the Black American experience. We've all had different experiences.